Hey guys, welcome back to week number 4, about halfway through here. And I'm going to talk about one of my probably favorite topics. I love the talk that we had last week just because, not because I love talking about it, but because of the freedom that it delivers people. When they finally can get away from guilt around their food. I know that's not always as simple as a little 15-minute talk for me, but today we're going to speed through one of my other favorite topics, one that has probably one of the biggest impacts on how people feel and just their quality of life. And so many of these topics or bullet points rather that I'm going to ask you to do are so practical and easy. And when they all get added together, they really compound and make a huge difference. And this topic is very, very important, and it's one that everybody underrates. It's the first place that I look with new clients. Like if this is off, I address it first. Like, well, yeah, we get you moving, whatever, but really it's because we want to address this. Like movement helps this thing, eating better or doing certain things, it helps this thing. Because this is the X factor. This is the X factor for fat loss. It's the X factor for a healthy life. It's the X factor for longevity, for learning, for building muscle, for literally everything, for having good hormones. If you don't do this well, you're going to fail. Maybe you can grit through and you can be successful, but you are going to have a lot less progress than you otherwise would have. So I'm going to be looking at my notes a lot. I'm just going to let you know right now because I have so many of them. But what I can tell you is that if you do this thing, if you have a slight reduction in this, you are going to have a 52% reduction in the amount of body fat you're losing compared to what you're doing right now. So same workout, same nutrition, but you take this out or you reduce the quality of this thing and you're gonna have literally half the results. So if you're maybe in this boat right now, you can double your results, right? So if you have a 50% increase, then you're gonna be doubling. So what I'm talking about here is your sleep. Your sleep is so very, very important. So let me explain this cycle to you, the poor sleep cycle. So what happens to a lot of people, one way or another, we find ourselves where we're struggling with our sleep. And so we're staying up late for whatever reason. Sometimes we don't get a lot of free time to ourselves because we run around kids and work and all this thing. And it's like the only time I have to just settle in and be a human and maybe talk to your spouse or whatever, or just chill out for an hour, hour and a half is when it's late at night, and that's the only choice. Or maybe it's because you work shift work. Ask us about our shift work sleep guide and some things that if you're in that boat. But you stay up late, you get some poor sleep, right? Not only do you not get enough sleep, but you get a poor sleep for these reasons that I'm going to mention. You wake up groggy, right? So you don't feel great. So you have a coffee, and it's like, man, I don't really want to go for breakfast. You have a coffee, an energy drink, whatever. So that means your blood sugar's coming up with your cortisol, and you're zooming at about 11, whatever, blood sugar crashes, right, from all that cortisol, and you're starving. So you have a big lunch. Go have a big lunch and you feel absolutely terrible. Hopefully you're not in that boat anymore. And then you're like, shoot, I am bottomed out. It's 1 p.m., 2 p.m. I'm going to fall asleep. I need another energy drink. So you reach for another energy drink. That gets you to about the end of the day. You get home, you're absolutely exhausted. So you don't want to meal prep. You want to do things on your to-do list. So you procrastinate, which stresses you out. And then you desire an escape from that. So you watch TV, you stay up late again, you scroll social media, and that makes you have poor sleep, and then now wash, rinse, and repeat until something breaks, or you just finally make it to the weekend and you try to sleep in, hopefully. Tell me that's not, if that's not you, I'm telling you that's how most people live their entire existence, their entire life, and it is a miserable, miserable way to live. I would absolutely not want to do that. I literally wake up feeling amazing every single day, right? And people are like, oh, well, good for you, don't have these problems. No, I prioritize my sleep, and I'm going to tell you how it is that we do that, because talked about the reduction in your fat loss, talked about no hormones get made. Your sleep is when your hormones get made, and we have waves of sleep, and it's like a staircase. It goes deeper and deeper and deeper as we go through each cycle. If we don't get into these certain cycles that usually only happen past the 6.5 hour mark, you don't have a lot of really good things happen that need to happen. And something else that happens is your decision making goes down. Your ability to make executive decisions outside of the influence of your feelings and your desire and this like dopamine response and this like, not intuitive, but impulsive behavior. Combating impulsive behavior is like 50% of fitness in all instances. your ability to handle those things goes way down, like gets cut in half. And if you're a high performing individual, if you're a thinker, if you got to make a lot of decisions throughout the day and you get decision fatigue, not sleeping well is going to make that so much worse, way worse. If you got a lot of schedules, a lot of stuff to manage, a lot of stuff going on in your brain, if you don't sleep well, I pity you, to be honest. That sucks. That's going to be absolutely terrible. So we have to work on our sleep for those things, and your cravings go up. Your cravings are going to double when you have a poor night's sleep. So pay attention. If you have a really poor night's sleep after you've been sleeping good because you're going to do these things, and you have a really poor night's sleep, you will have more cravings that next day. It's going to be a battle, right? To not give in, to not, maybe fall back into old habits. That's usually what happens. It doesn't happen when you're strong and you're rested and you're not stressed and you're fed. It happens when you're beat down, when you're tired, when you're stressed, when you're hungry. That's when those things come at you. So when I talk about sleep, there is also what we talk about, which comes from poor sleep. This sounds kind of mean. It's really just an archetype, and sometimes we can see it. We call it the stress body. When somebody has a stress body, generally they have a lot of body fat around their trunk and very small, from their shoulders to the wrists and basically your hips down. So your arms and your legs are much smaller, but you accumulate a lot of fat here. That is a lot of times super high cortisol levels that comes from that cycle that I just described a few moments ago happening consistently. That increases the amount of body fat in those areas. So that can happen. But there is not just the length of sleep. There's also going to be the quality of sleep. So I want to talk about quality of sleep for a second. I mentioned when you go into deeper and deeper sleep cycles, as you go longer and longer into sleep, that's what we're going to talk about when we talk about the quality of sleep. Now, if you're waking up multiple times throughout the night, yes, you may go right back to sleep, but you're kind of sometimes kicking out of those. That's not always true, but if you're like having to get up and go to the bathroom, do other things, you're not going to get that quality of sleep that is required for a lot of good things to happen for your health and for your longevity, especially for your fat loss. So we also need quality sleep. We can't just knock ourselves out and be unconscious for 8 hours. That doesn't work that way. So if you're taking things to do that, you're perpetuating the cycle. You're not making it better. It keeps us perhaps from going insane and having insomnia and all those things happening, and that's okay. That's your decision to make. But there's a big difference between also when you like jolt awake in the morning versus you wake up naturally and you feel rested, right? Versus your alarm blaring and you having to jump out of bed. That'll stop happening. You'll wake up easier in the morning times before or around your alarm if you're doing the right things for your sleep. So sleep length is very important. It's about 8 hours and 20 minutes on average is what we need. And that needs to be consistent night after night. You cannot sleep for 12 hours one day and sleep for 4 hours the other day and call it an 8 hour average. Don't work like that. It absolutely does not work like that. Naps can be helpful, but 20-minute naps, whatever. I'm not going to get into napping. But what I'm going to get into is how to have great sleep and all the reasons why. So get out a pen and paper. This is going to be helpful. So you can pause this video for a second. I want you to take notes on this and just jot these down. One, again, so that you learn and they get in your brain from writing them. But also so you have this as a reference so you can start doing some of these things. Because it's a lot. There's a lot of bullet points here. And I'm going to give you a shorter explanation about why they work. So first thing is no social media 45 minutes before bed. Everybody's like, that's always the first one. They're like, I don't really want to do that. I want to scroll social media in my bed. If you're going to do it, don't do it in the bedroom. Don't get on your phone laying in bed. Do I do it sometimes? Yes, I do. I would be remiss and a hypocrite if I didn't say you don't do it every once in a while. But do it on the couch, do it outside, do it somewhere else. Don't do it in bed because your brain will associate spaces with activities and all these things. And I promise you, it's going to mess with your sleep cycle. So, but no social media 45 minutes before bed. The reason why is we're constantly changing tasks and changing activities when we're scrolling. Every new post is a new story, is a new theme, is a new thing for our brain to refigure out. So it's winding up, winding up, winding up, winding up over and over again. And that increases different brain waves that are not conducive to sleep. We're not really meant to live like that anyways, but hey, it's probably here to stay. So if it's not just the blue light from your phone, the light intensity from your phone, it's also those things that are going on with your brain. So if anything, reduce the proximity you do it before bed by a little bit. And then next thing is no screen time in general 45 minutes before bed. Again, if you start at 15 minutes before, maybe do some dishes or pack your bag or have a little nighttime routine that helps you wind down. Maybe you're a person that takes a bath or a shower before bed or whatever. Like, pack some activities in that you can do at the end of the day that are, one, going to prepare you for the next day, because preparation is key. Pack your gym bag, do those things. Whatever it is, just spend 15 minutes doing that. Gets you away from some screens. It'll make you feel prepared for the next day. You'll sleep a lot better that way as well. Because the blue light coming in from our screens, if you don't know this, you haven't heard about blue light, there's wavelengths of light all the way from blue, red, violet, all these other different wavelengths. Blue light is what comes from the sun around noontime when the sun is overhead, not necessarily in the evening or not necessarily in the morning. It's more red, orange. But when our prehistoric eyes here pick up blue light, it thinks time to be awake, time to go gather food, whatever. I don't want to be walking around in the dark. So I'm going to be awake when I perceive blue light. The problem is these devices, all of them, anything with a screen nowadays basically, emits a lot of blue light. Now, it's not as intense as the sun, but it's enough to hold us out of sleep and to cause some disturbances in the depth of our sleep as well. So best case scenario, you also use some blue light blocking glasses. I like a company called Felix Gray. You can't just get any. You have to get a real pair. Felix Gray is about one of the only ones that is a real blue light blocking glasses. Most of them are fake. They're junk. They don't do what they claim. So I love those. I love blue light blocking glasses. But pretty much anytime after sundown or within 2.5 hours of bedtime, no blue light. So blue light blocking glasses, or if you're going to do no screen time for that long, that's fantastic. The next thing on the topic of light is light intensity. So overhead lights are very, very bright. Things like a lamp is going to be much, much better. Again, because the sun is very, very bright. In the daytime, we're supposed to be awake, so our brain picks that up. And it's also the direction of light coming in to our eyeballs that is very, very important. So when the sun, again, is overhead, is coming in at this angle versus from a low angle, or versus like a fire that is on the ground that we use for nighttime. So things like lamps are going to be really, really helpful. My rule in our house is when the sun goes down, we don't use overhead lights, period. Like, that is like a hard and fast rule. It's like not leaving the refrigerator door open, right? So that can be very, very helpful. The next thing is no fluids 2 hours before bed. That's not just for people who wake up and pee in the middle of the night. It's for people who have a human bladder, who have excitatory receptors in said bladder. And when it is slightly full, it's very, very little. And it's not something where you're going to be like, I drank a little bit of water and I had a terrible night's sleep. It's the depth of that sleep gets diminished by 2%. And all these things, you can see there's a lot of bullet points. They all culminate to make this huge impact, right? In and of themselves, any one thing probably isn't going to do it other than the bright lights and the blue light. But these all kind of compound on each other and can really, really improve our sleep or hurt our sleep depending on how you use them. So no fluids within 2 hours of bed, and also no refined carbohydrates. So cereals, desserts, those sorts of things. That is going to raise your blood sugar right before bed. Makes it really difficult for your body to do what needs to happen in order to fall asleep. So also on the positive side, one thing that is really, really helpful is to have a cold, dark room. So if your spouse or whatever likes it too cold, well, they're right. Your body temperature needs to cool down, and you need to, your core temperature has to come down in order for you to fall asleep. That's why sometimes you wake up and it's hot, or you're in a place where it doesn't have air conditioning, it's really hard to sleep. And that's why in the morning, what happens is our cortisol kind of comes up and it warms us up, and then that's one of our signals. That's the main signal for us to wake up. That's why for our shift workers, one of the best things that you can do in the morning time to reset your clock is get in a cold shower or take a cold plunge and lower your core temperature and force your body to really rocket up your temperature because of the cold water, and then you'll wake up much, much faster and feel a lot fresher that way. It's a good thing to do anyways, whether you're a shift worker or not. But cold room, dark room especially, no TVs on, no phone playing in the background, no night lights, none of those things. Dark, like you're in a cave, dark, okay? If you can make that happen. If the moon's really bright outside and it's coming through your window, you're gonna be awake, right? So dark, dark, dark room, get some curtains, whatever you need to do to make that happen. And then the next thing is when you lay down in bed, I want you to do a breathing technique. So let me review very quickly, because now we're kind of in bed, we're getting ready to fall asleep. We've prepared very, very well. So what we've done is sun has gone down. We have turned off overhead lights. We are now only using a lamp or something of the nature. Our intensity of our screens, our brightness has been turned down. We're using blue blocking glasses, so our light environment is now a big fat A+. And preferably, we're cutting those things off 30 minutes, 45 minutes before bedtime. We're reading, we're doing other low-level tasks that don't get us excited. We're preparing for the next day. And then we are not doing any carbohydrates or any fluid within 2 hours of bedtime. And we're getting a nice, cold, dark room. So we're gonna get in bed, and what we're gonna do is this nasal breath. So what we need to see happen is, one, you're gonna breathe through your nose and not through your mouth. If you're a mouth breather during bedtime, if you're waking up with your mouth hanging open and you're drooling all over yourself, you're gonna have poor sleep. That is not good. You need to be able to breathe through your nose and your nose only. I've known a lot of people to use mouth tape and tape their mouth closed, so that can only happen. If you can't do that, or if you have sleep apnea or whatever like that, that's a very, very hard thing to overcome, and get good sleep that way. So what we can do to set that is we need to set a new rhythm with our breathing. So this is a good way to, like, if you're stressed or whatever, we can just fix it just like that and get you in the same state no matter what. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna take a big deep breath in through our mouth, through our nose, preferably through our nose, but a lot of times your first one. So I'm laying in bed right now and I'm gonna go, and I'm gonna let it all the way out and completely deflate my lungs. So, and feel like my lungs are just collapsing. So you can do it with me now as you watch. From there, once it's completely, my lungs are feel like completely void of air, I'm gonna suck my lips basically and shut my mouth. So I'm gonna pull my lips in. Now my mouth is completely closed. And then big deep breath in through the nose only. And then I'm just gonna breathe natural and just let my body do it. That like knocks me out. Like legit 30 seconds later, I'm asleep sometimes. That is very, very powerful. What you're doing is you're setting a new rhythm for your breathing that is longer and slower. And that is going to really suppress your nervous system and get any stress out of you and let you kind of fall asleep naturally. So stress is the enemy, or excitement. Even if you have a comedy special and you're super pumped up about a football game, whatever, a basketball game, that raises cortisol levels. Cortisol and melatonin can't be in your body and your brain at the same time. And that's why, taking melatonin is not the best idea for a lot of people. That's why a lot of people say, I fall asleep, but I don't stay asleep. It's because your sleep is crap. That's why your melatonin is required to be in a pill form instead of your own body's form. And, but you do take it, doesn't fix the sleep issues. And that's why you still wake up even though you knock yourself out. So fix these things, give it a week or two, because it doesn't happen instantly. So some of these will improve instantly. But the final thing, the most important thing that you can do to improve your sleep, and I don't want to say this trumps everything else on this list. It's definitely first place. I can't say if you did everything else wrong that you would still have good sleep if you did this thing, but I bet it would still improve. If you do nothing else, if you refuse to get off social media, if you refuse to buy blue blocking glasses, please do that. It's very simple to put glasses on your face and improve your sleep. If you do nothing else, do this. This one thing, it's the most powerful thing you can do for your sleep, okay? And if you're a shift worker, you're gonna go, F, I can't do that. That sucks. Maybe you can still. And people, the reason why I'm stressing this so much is because people look at me like I'm a freaking idiot and like I'm crazy. I will print off piles of research for you to prove to you that this is the best thing you could possibly do. For your nighttime sleep, for when you want to fall asleep at night, when the sun comes up, when there's first light, okay, it crests the horizon. It doesn't have to be in the air, just morning time. Sun comes up. Go outside and get sunlight in your eyeballs for about 10 to 15 minutes. That will reset your circadian rhythm in your entire body. Morning sunlight. For example, the lumens you get from a light bulb. You're like, well, I got indoor lights on, or I'm getting it through the sun, or through the window. One, you can't get it through a window, so don't work. It's got to be outside. The windows filter out the photons. The lumens and the intensity of light from a overhead light might be a couple thousand. Outside is going to be in the millions. Okay, totally different. Totally different. Can you imagine having $2,000 in your bank account versus $2 million? It's a big difference. Okay, so you have to be outside, sunlight in your eyes. You have clocks in every cell in your body. When they get dysregulated, that's why you can't sleep. This is the most powerful reset to regulate that thing. Some cold water will help with this as well because of the temperature thing. It's a part of your circadian rhythm as it is very heavily based on temperature. Go outside, get sunlight in your eyes for 5 minutes. Start with 3 minutes. For me, if I'm going to work and the sun is coming up, it's usually coming up close to that time where it's already up. I will, before I get in the car and take off, I will just look at the horizon. It's a really great way to, one, just, you can do a gratitude practice. If you're a praying person, you can pray for a couple minutes, with your eyes open. And obviously you don't want to defeat the purpose and close your eyes. And then I will do some big breaths. So hopefully my neighbor hasn't seen me doing this by now, but sorry, Joe, I promise I'm not weird. But big breaths, like just to get oxygen in and get oxygen to your brain, like I'm sucking through a straw. This is really obnoxious, I'm gonna apologize, but I'm gonna go and just and hold. So you're doing breath work out in the sun, best thing you could possibly do for your sleep. And that's it. So what's gonna happen is all the things I mentioned before: increased fat loss, increased hormone production, increased decision-making abilities, decreased cravings. You're going to have increased mood. You're going to be a happier person. You're going to be more productive. You're going to get more done. You're going to live the ways you want to live. And it starts with you literally walking outside and looking at the horizon for a couple minutes and turning off the freaking overhead lights. How crazy is that? This is why I love this. It's so easy. It's so impactful. It changes people's lives. So you just got a master class on sleep. I hope you took some notes. I hope you do those things this week. I'll let you know here in just a couple days. We're going to do a little refocusing here on the first day of week number 5. So you've got a lot of education. We're going to refocus here in a couple days and kind of really, if you need to get back on track, we're going to get back on track. So thanks for sticking with me. I hope that you learned a lot. I'll see you in a couple days.